This week on Dig Me Out. With your hosts, Jason Zia and Tim Minichi.
Jay, we're back again with another episode thanks to our Dig Me Out Union on Patreon. Join the union to vote on albums, pick one to discuss with us on the show, get access to bonus episodes, and our private Discord community. Keep the podcast ad-free and make the next episode happen by joining us at digmeoutpodcast.com. Jay, we're back with another patron-suggested episode. This comes from a gentleman who has been with us for a while. He has suggested numerous records. He has never been on the show, though. He chooses to remain anonymous. Not anonymous. We know his name. He chooses to remain in the shadows. Let's put it that way. And
that's okay, as long as the picks are good.
And you know what? We've always gotten interesting picks from Mr. Jim Stelter. He gives us, a pick each year, and I say, "You want to come on?" He's like, "No. I'm good." So, in the past, we have gotten albums from him. So last year, he went with "Sensation" by Pig.
Okay,
we did that last year. 2023, Stratosphere by Duster. So completely at two different ends of the spectrum right there. 2022, Bedhead, Transaction de Nuevo. 2021, The Wellwater Conspiracy, Brotherhood of Electric Operational Directive. 2020 was Firewater's Ponzi Scheme.
Okay.
And I think that's all of them. We go back to 2018. We went with, it was Lusk, Free Mars.
Okay.
So all over the place.
Yeah. Well, a lot of those are like right on the edge of my familiarity.
Mm-hmm.
Like one step away from a band or a genre that I like.
Oh, we also picked Juno.
Okay.
So yeah, these are all like on the periphery. And this year, the album and the band, well, the band is called Love Cup. 2 words, I've learned. And then the album is their only album that was released in the 90s. It's called Grefus Gronks and Sheet.
Yikes.
Now, for Google purposes, that's great.
Yeah.
Grefus Gronks.
Especially if your name is Love Cup.
Yes. Nobody's going to use that. So a little bit about Love Cup.
History of the band.
I had never heard of them, Jay. I don't know. Had you ever heard of Love Cup? It was not something on my radar.
This album was in my collection somehow. I added it in 2020, so I can only assume it was a topic of conversation on the Discord.
Huh, that's interesting.
And I downloaded it. That's my only guess. I don't remember listening to it. I never heard the band name before.
It's on Bandcamp and it's a free download. You don't have to pay for it.
Yep.
So maybe somebody downloaded it from there and then everybody went.
Or mentioned it and I went and downloaded it at the time and just forgot about it.
So the band formed in 1991 in Champaign-Urbana, Illinois. It featured Mark Baldwin on guitar, TJ Harrison on bass, and originally Jim Kelly, not of the Buffalo Bills, on drums, and later Jason Millam on drums. Thurman Thomas played clarinet, Daryl Talley, trombone, Fred Smirlis, harmonica.
Nice.
Busting out so no, they originally released in 1992 a 7-inch called Tearing Water. It was on the 12-inch records label and it was called the Single of the Moment Club. Now what's interesting is this series only has 2 releases listed. I'm sure there are more, but there's only 2 listed in Discogs. The first one is a Hum 7-inch, Hello Kitty, which was released in 1992 also.
Okay.
That's a when I say that's a rare 7-inch, I mean, like there's one copy for sale of that Hum 7-inch on Discogs, and it's $220.
Wow.
So yeah, you're not finding that.
What year is that?
1992.
Wow.
I only have heard those songs because of MP3s. I've never seen the actual vinyl, and I have other Hum 7-inches because I'm a Hum nerd. But interesting, I'm a humdinger. They're both from the Champaign-Urbana, Illinois area, and they're both on the same label, releasing 7-inch singles. And 12-inch records is where Hum released their first albums, as well as Grefus Gronks and Sheet, which was originally 12-inch records. It was also released on Cargo Records, which you remember Cargo Records, Jay. They were one of those indies that like you kind of had maybe a hope of like submitting your demo and getting signed. Like there was a Columbus band that was signed to them, Silo Husky.
Okay.
I just saw that there's a record coming out. I was doing our our thing where we do our calendar, and I research albums that are coming out each week, and somebody's putting out an album on Cargo Records, and I was like, are you kidding me? Cargo Records is still around? Is that possible?
Yeah.
So they've released two albums in the 2000s. I think these were like just self-released on Bandcamp type of thing.
Yeah.
The oldest shit in the book was released in 2014, and in 2015 it was followed up with Love Cup is manipulating the robot arm. There you go.
Wow, those are some creepy names.
Yeah. The people in the band have been in other bands. Bassist TJ Harrison was in a band called the Mezzanines, and Gifted, and Mark Baldwin also in the Mezzanines. He was also in a band called Absconder, and Jason Millam was in a band called Emotional Wreck Club, and then original drummer Jim Kelly. He, after his Hall of Fame career, he played in Centaur, which was the band that Matt Talbot did after Hum. They have one album. It's called In Streams. Never really got into it. It's not quite Humish. It's a little bit different. But that's so obviously Champaign-Urbana has a scene. You got this band, you got Hum. You got two bands, it's a scene. That's all you need.
That's true.
You can each open for each other.
You need two bands in a bar.
Two bands in a bar, exactly. And funny enough, Matt Talbot of Hum currently owns a bar now. And he does a festival where in that area where he puts on like a show every summer.
Doing double duty.
Yep, it's called Cobra something. I can't remember what the name of the full name of it is, but if you Google Matt Talbot, you'll find him. So I forgot where. Oh, okay. So Jim suggested this record. I guess National Skyline is also part of that. I didn't think about it, but National Skyline is also a Champaign band. So he didn't have a lot of comments, but we did get comments over at the Patreon. And Gavin said, I had never heard of this band or album. A super generic 90s band name. Please tell me it has a cool meaning. And a terrible album name. But I loved it. This is exactly what I want from DMO suggestions. Unheard bands that sound very 90s, especially in that ill-defined influences way. I heard Arches of Loaf in some of the vocals, which made me happy. So for me, a worthy album and a fun listen. And we'll share the poll results at the end of the show when we share our worthy album, better EP, or decent single grade. But Jay, let's talk about Grefus Gronks and Sheet by Love Cup. Tell me what works.
Yeah, this sounds like Hum's brother. that maybe listen to a lot of Nirvana. The comparison is we just got to get it out there. We're going to start with that. This sounds as close to hum as anybody I've ever heard, in all the good ways, not in a derivative way, but like, oh, they're coming from the same, literally coming from the same place, and you can hear it. So it's it's got that big space rock kind of overall tone to it. Huge guitar tones, huge bass tones, lots of effects. Make things move and do weird. You know, almost transform the guitars into a bit of a monster. They take on a life of their own. It's got the soft, loud stuff. If you just think of the hum song, you probably know Stars. A lot of the tracks on this album have that kind of dynamic. It starts off with a quiet, clean guitar, and at some point launches in with brutal, huge guitar riffs and thundering bass and drums. Um, it's melodic. It has that same sense of melody, that same sense of like, there's a technical ability here, below the noise, uh, and and that I think is clever and really hooks me in the way that the dynamics are handled, little riff parts, just the just the way the pieces and parts come together, the performances. You can tell these people know how to play. They're not just four chords. These are technically capable players. Vocally different, I think, though. That's probably where to me the biggest difference is. It's more, I don't know, it's somewhere between like a Dave Pirner and a Trent Reznor for me in terms of the delivery. So you get like these earnest, raspy voice deliveries that can go from like hushed tones to full on screams. Sometimes it was like, oh, I could hear this as like how you would deliver like an industrial song, that kind of singing in your throat in a hushed way, but also like forceful. But then there's other stuff that's just more straightforward. It just feels more like Midwestern-y kind of, I don't know, Soul Asylum, Husker Du kind of thing. So that's different than Hum. Hum is going to be more of like that smaller vocal. It's really in some ways swallowed by guitars on purpose. There's a big contrast, I think, for me with the way that Hum handles vocals versus the size of the band. The vocals are a little more powerful and present. First three songs on this record just crush. I mean, it's just like an avalanche of rumbling drums and cool fills and great guitar riffs, and it's still pretty melodic. Um, and yeah, I think the second track, Billfershort, I don't even know what that word is, but I mean that sounds like a Hum song to me. If you told me that
drum
was Hum,
fill.
it's the drum fill from Stars. Like, if you told me that was Hum, I'd be like, oh yeah, this sounds like maybe a demo or an early version of a Hum song. So if you're into that sound and you want the real deal, this feels like a lost Hum record to me, which I loved. What worked for you?
Similar, and my Hum appreciation goes back to like Electra 2000, which is the album that came out before You'd Prefer an Astronaut. That's the album that has Stars on it. They actually had two albums before that. The first one is very rough. It's called Filet Show. It's like a bad 80s album title. And Electra 2000 is where you can tell like they kicked it up a notch and they started to really understand songwriting and arrangement and stuff. And this album reminds me a lot of Electra 2000, simply because when you listen to You'd Prefer an Astronaut and the album after that, Downward is Heavenward, the guitars are enormous. And while the guitars are big on this, they're not in that like massive thing that Hum would do, and then also Smashing Pumpkins, who are, you know, just up the road in Chicago. It reminded me of that. It reminded me even in the clean things that they were doing. There were little clean notes that were being played that maybe had a little bit of, you know, some effect on it, you know, like a roto vibe or something, where you get these like little, like it's not quite a delay, but there's something warping the note a little bit.
I think there's maybe a phaser.
Yeah, and you get a little bit of a space rock feel. Hum is the obvious one, not just because of geography, but because there's similarities in the sound. But I heard a lot of shoegaze in this band, in their space rock, in the way that like Spiritualized does space rock, or some of the earlier, you know, 90s UK space rock shoegaze adjacent bands, especially when they get quieter. When they're big and loud, they sound like a Midwest rock band that, you know, I would have been listening to this in 1994 when it came out if I had known it existed. But being on such a small label, I don't even know that we even got the record in our, you know, radio station. I really, really like the overall presentation, the sound of the band. Even when they get quieter, there's still interesting things happening. The drums are slamming. It's a really big sound. It's a different vocal approach. It's not worse than what Matt Talbot does. Matt Talbot has a very specific style. He's got that very nasally vocal. And this is more like, what if, you know, you mentioned like Nirvana, like what if Kurt Cobain was the lead singer of Failure? Yeah. Like that's kind of what you're getting here. And Failure was from Seattle instead of Los Angeles.
The throaty screaming Nirvana.
Yes.
Right. I mean, it's like his voice breaks quite a bit on this album.
Yeah. Like Heroine, that has that, like, I don't know how to describe it, but that hum vibe. And apparently these guys like were friends and they would play shows together. So I mean, this isn't like an unfair comparison in that they were from the same, you know, scene essentially.
Right.
So I don't want to say like this is just Hum, you know, Junior, something like that, because it's not. It's definitely, it's interesting because it's like it's the perfect encapsulation of what a scene should be if it has a unified sound, which is, oh, the bands kind of sound similar, but they're each doing their own thing in the same space. Sort of like what was happening in Seattle, sort of like what happened in Boston or Chicago, where you have like-minded bands. Maybe there's some sort of connective tissue with members or playing shows together, and they rub off on each other. It just happens. But this is like the perfect, I would say, like if this band had opened for Hum when I saw them, I guess it would have been 95 when I saw them. It's right after this. Yeah, I would have left, because the band that opened for them was a slowcore band, if you can imagine, opening for Hum. So it was not the right vibe.
Right.
This would have been perfect. I would have been like buying the record at the show. But I never heard anything about this band, so
no,
it's crazy.
Yeah, no, the comparisons are and Hum is a band we've mentioned, you know, often in the past as a
Hmm.
touchstone of like one of the sounds we maybe call back or reference to try to describe things. This is I mean, they're hitting on the magic stuff that it's hard for us to even describe. It's the unique similarities that can only go back to a common source and probably time seeing each other and hearing each other and going to see the same band. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it's not just like the sound you would hear from a band who like picked up a record by another band and liked it and then was inspired to then imply that to their sound. This sounds more, like I said, a brother. Like they are from the same family.
Yeah. What doesn't work for you on the album?
It's the mix is muddy, and that's a problem for this particular band because there's so much midtone here. There's a lot of cool stuff going on in the bass, but often it gets lost because it's just too much mid. There's just too much. There's guitars and bass all sort of like mushed up in this middle space, and there's nothing. The highs are kind of missing, and then you end up with like this boomy bass. So it's just not a great mix master. I suspect you probably could remix and master this and make it sound really great. That the material is there on the tape, but as it sits, it's a really dynamic record, and there's a lot of cool tones you can tell. There's a lot of really the way the effects layer too. There's kind of these special little moments that happen with they do little bass slides and chord slides combined with the effects, and some of that just gets lost. Like you turn it up and you're like, I think there's something cool in there, but it's just kind of like muffled. Um,
Hmm.
so that was a bit of a struggle, as I got really into the record, I want to crank it and like it just wasn't quite there. And I think the only other thing would be, I guess, some of the slower moments combined with the way the vocals and the music interplay don't always work as well. I think it starts off super strong with the first three tracks, and then you hit a slow song, and things get a little wishy-washy and kind of boring. They don't have that. When Hum would go slow, there was just so much nuance, and like it could get so pretty and weird, and like there was a lot of, maybe the production was a little better too, and you just that vocal style, that more nasal vocal style sort of worked better in the quieter material. Or he would just not sing, and there would just be long musical sections without vocals. On here, when they slow down, things just get less cohesive for me. Um, and then as the record progresses, I struggled a bit with the vocal just not quite meshing with the band. It was almost like you said, like Kurt Cobain singing for failure. In some ways that sounds super cool, and in other ways that's gonna sound terrible.
Yeah.
And I got a little bit of that here. Like as he's singing, I'm like, oh, vocally, like this could be like an early Soul Asylum song. Like if you took the band, stripped the band tracks away, but the band's, not doing that. And the two things together, um, are not quite meshing for me. It's a very dry vocal. It's not, there's no double tracking. I don't hear harmonies. It's mostly just, very little reverb on it. Um, so that's a little weird too, because there's so much like, I think, effect on the band, and the band is so huge, and then the vocal is like dynamic on its own, but dry. I don't know. There's just portions of this album where I just don't feel like the two are on the same page all the time. How about you? What didn't work?
Yeah, there's some well, first of all, the production of this does not do it justice. It should be cleaner, fuller. Like you said, there's not a lot of low end on the bass, which hurts the overall sound.
Hmm.
Um, he is a solid singer, but they never come up with a killer chorus the way that Hum was able to do. Or it's not even it's a killer chorus, it's just they have a hook. And I think there's a lot of dynamics on a song like Stars. None of these have that level of dynamics with the stops and the starts, and this reminded me of, it's a little bit more not jammy, but it definitely sounds like looser than the Hum stuff, whereas the Hum stuff could sound really tight and
Yeah.
push, like really pushing you. And I did read a little bit that they were friends with Poster Children as well, which is another band from that area.
Mm.
And the Rick from the Poster Children actually got them in the studio to make this record. So that was who they toured with when they went out. So it doesn't sound like they had like a big tour or major budget or anything like that. It was all just sort of, DIY essentially. Which makes sense. We know bands that got signed to like smaller labels, and the support was very small. You don't get a full tour from some indie label that's going to give you $5,000 to make a record. Like you get that kind of support from Universal or Epic or something like that at the time. So I mentioned, like, what if I would have seen this? I probably would have loved it live, because I imagine that these songs sound huge live, but they're just like missing that punch. It's a little muddy.
Yeah.
And that doesn't do this justice the way it should. Also, I'm with you. Like, there's some slow stuff here that it's slow, but it's not quite as interesting. The back half of the record sort of loses me a little bit.
Yep.
I don't love that. That closing track seems like it should be inverted. They have the weird noisy part first, and then the actual song. And I feel like Scientifically Yours should be moved forward, and Green Machine should be the hidden track.
Yeah.
Because it's not.
Or make Green Machine into an actual song.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a cool like vocal melody guitar part there, but they put a bunch of noise over it, and you're like,
yeah,
okay, I guess we're just gonna end the record this way. And then they pause, and then there's a whole other song that's heavier that has nothing to do with the other. I just don't get it. Or make it two separate tracks. I suppose maybe on the CD, Scientifically Yours was like the bonus track.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I mean,
or the hidden track. Sorry,
the hidden track. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think this was. I don't know if this got a vinyl release, but I don't. Maybe it did. Who knows?
I don't know why else you wouldn't just make it a separate track.
No, this was a CD and only release with the cassette promo. Listening to this and the comparison to Hum breaks through the year before with You'd Prefer an Astronaut, Stars, that kind of thing. It's interesting because I kind of surprised that they didn't get signed to a major based on Hum not blowing up, but that was a big single. It got them on like Howard Stern, and they were on MTV. They played like 120 minutes live, that kind of thing. So Hum had some like exposure for maybe like 6 months.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that some record label executive, some A&R guy, didn't swoop into Champaign-Urbana, and sign them.
Yeah.
Um,
Kidding.
it seems like that would be the logical step.
Especially with the pumpkins. I mean, I always
Yeah,
assumed that like some of the push for Hum came because of the pumpkins, and then after the the Hum song was big, you think that they would just keep going and mining that whole scene.
yeah, exactly. You know, you already have Siamese Dream out. That's what, 93, and
Hmm.
then this. Or I mean, sorry, and then Hum's "You Prefer an Astronaut." So I mean, you're getting the big guitar stuff from that Illinois area. Um, like I said, I don't remember this being in the studio, so I don't know if this got any sort of radio push. There's no promo stuff other than the album itself, and it was a cassette. So I'm guessing that they probably sent out just CDs, and because there's no single release as a promo, which again, it's a smaller label. They probably didn't have the budget to print up, CD singles. Because unfortunately, when you press the CD single, it doesn't matter whether you press one song or 20 songs, it costs the same to press the single.
Right.
And not every label could, do a bunch of CD singles in the 90s because they were just cost prohibitive. So I'm what I'm getting to is I don't know that this would have broken through in any way because it doesn't have that killer single that it would need.
Yep.
Um, that's the thing that's the ultimate thing that's missing. This is an
Yeah.
enjoyable
They
listen.
they don't have their stars.
Yeah. They just need that one killer track with some sort of a hook that makes it stand out. Because a lot of this was very like I could totally hear this fitting in with a lot of the 120-minute alternative nation bands, but without a hook, it's not going to get there. And I don't think they made a video. I don't know of a video. There's nothing listed as far as there being a video. So
Yeah, I bet this was a lot of fun live.
yes, this definitely sounds like the kind of band you want to see live.
It just I would imagine it'd be like one of those, unassuming bands setting up. You're like, oh, what's this going to be like? And then they just crush your face.
Right. Yeah.
You're like, what?
So let's talk about overall ratings on this record, Jay. Worthy album, better EP, or decent single? Where do you land?
I had a lot of fun with this. I'm going to go with the Worthy album. It's only 43 minutes. It's not perfect. It'd be cool if they threw a couple bucks at it again and it got it remastered or remixed and helped it sound a little better. Even in some of the moments that are weaker, there's a nostalgia factor here and also just a premium for not very many bands or albums sound like this. That hit it in just this exact way. So I'm giving it bonus points for that. I mean, Hum has a small catalog, and the bands that we've compared to them are, distant cousins compared to
Yeah,
this. This is like right in the same sweet spot. So bonus points for that. So I'm gonna give it a worthy album. Where'd you land?
I'm with you. I think it's a worthy album. I liked putting this on. The heaviness of the record, and its overall vibe was good to have on passively.
Mm-hmm.
It's just when I listened actively, there were a couple of things that bothered me. And then you start to nitpick the production, and then you start to go, well, where's the big hook?
It's the same for me. Like when I was just working and had it on with like even when I sleep, track 3 would come on, I'd just be like, this is incredible. Like I just cranking it, rocking out. And then as I got deeper into the album and sat down and actually took notes and really, really listened, I started to pick it apart a bit more.
Yeah. So our patrons agreed with us 100% were the album. No dissenters.
Nice.
All the dissenters were sent to a facility off island.
If you click single, you just immediately get ejected.
Right. Your seat just launches you wherever you're sitting. We've patented ejection seat technology.
Out the roof.
Yes. So we need to thank Jim Stelter for suggesting this record. Another cool record. Often the ones that he's brought to us, we did not know. Or we should have known. But we should have known. Or we knew the band name. Mm-hmm. And we're like, oh, okay, kind of remember that. Put this down as another one. Grefus Gronks and Sheet by Love Cup. I'm going to name a character Grefus Gronks in some
in a book.
Hello, I'm Grefus Gronks. How is that not? That's got to be a character from from a Monty Python sketch or something,
or Harry Potter,
Potter. One of the teachers, Professor Gronks. Well, if you have enjoyed this episode, if it brought back good memories and positive vibes, join us at digmeoutpodcast.com to explore our free archive of over 800 episodes, history of the band posts, and weekly new release roundups. Want more? Paid subscribers unlock bonus podcast episodes covering 70s, 80s, and aughts rock, new release reviews, and access to our private Discord community. That's digmeoutpodcast.com. And while you're there, suggest an album you think deserves to be featured on a future episode of Dig Me Out. For Jay, I'm Tim. We're out, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Dig Me Out.